All right, folks, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about one of the most controversial issues that just keeps coming back into the headlines: vaccines, politics, and how America should handle both public health and personal freedom. And before you click away thinking, oh man, not another vaccine debate, let me tell you, this isn't just about shots in arms. It's about history, politics, money, trust, and even the future of how we deal with health crises. So buckle up, because this is going to be a deep dive, and by the end, I think you'll see this debate in a whole new light. Let's start with what just happened in Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis rolled out a new policy saying vaccines for kids in public schools would no longer be required. His argument: parents should have the freedom to decide what goes into their kids' bodies. Now, if you're a parent, that probably hits home, because nobody likes feeling forced into medical decisions for their children. But here's the catch: this decision doesn't just affect individual families, it affects entire communities. Vaccines aren't only about protecting one kid, they're about protecting classrooms, neighborhoods, and entire states from outbreaks. And that's where the controversy really kicks in. Some parents cheered DeSantis, saying, finally, someone's standing up for freedom. Others are furious, warning that this could bring back diseases we thought we had under control. The State House is buzzing, doctors are on the airwaves, and the rest of America is watching closely, because what happens in Florida often spreads nationwide, not just viruses, but policies. To understand why this debate is so heated, you've got to know the history. Vaccines have always been a double-edged sword, life-saving on one side, controversial on the other. Take polio, for example. Back in the 1950s, Jonas Salk developed the first polio vaccine, and people hailed him as a hero. But not long after, there was the so-called Cutter incident, a tragic case where a batch of polio vaccines wasn't properly inactivated. As a result, thousands of kids were exposed to live virus, and hundreds were paralyzed. It was a disaster, and it shook people's faith in vaccines. Fast forward to the 1970s, the swine flu scare. The government rushed out a vaccine campaign, urging millions of Americans to get the shot. But soon, cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare but serious neurological disorder, started popping up. The campaign was halted, and critics accused Washington of fear-mongering and overreacting. Then came the MMR controversy in the late 1990s, when a now-debunked study claimed the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine might be linked to autism. Even though that study was retracted and proven fraudulent, the damage was done. Vaccine skepticism spread like wildfire, and trust has never fully recovered. Each of these events left scars, not just medically, but politically, and they're still shaping how people react today. Now, let's talk about the science, and more importantly, the limits of science. Vaccines work by training your immune system to recognize and fight off dangerous pathogens. That's the basic mechanism, and it's solid. Vaccines have saved millions of lives, no question. Smallpox was eradicated. Polio is nearly gone worldwide. Measles deaths dropped dramatically wherever vaccination rates rose. But here's where things get messy. No medical intervention is 100% safe. Every vaccine carries some risk, whether it's mild side effects like fever and soreness, or rare but serious reactions. And here's the truth that often gets lost in the shouting match. Science can't always predict the long-term effects, especially when new vaccines are rolled out quickly in response to emergencies. Think about the COVID vaccines. They were developed at record speed, a huge scientific achievement. But to this day, people argue about the long-term data. Do they prevent transmission as effectively as first claimed? What about myocarditis risks in young males? How did booster shots play into long-term immunity? Science evolves, and so do the answers. But when government officials act like the science is settled on day one, people smell politics, not science. And that's where trust breaks down. And let's be honest here, vaccines stopped being just a health issue a long time ago. They've become a political football. On the left, you often hear, Trust the science. Take the shot. It's your duty as a citizen. On the right, the argument is, my body, my choice. Don't let government dictate medical decisions. But here's the kicker. Both sides are half right and half wrong. Public health does require collective action. If nobody gets vaccinated, outbreaks explode. Hospitals fill and lives are lost. On the other hand, forcing medical procedures breeds resentment, resistance, and sometimes outright rebellion. And then there's the hypocrisy. Remember how before COVID, many progressives championed bodily autonomy in other contexts. Suddenly, some of the same voices wanted vaccine mandates, without exception. Meanwhile, many conservatives who historically supported tough on crime, tough on regulation policies suddenly discovered a love for individual liberty when it came to vaccines. It's politics, folks, not consistency. We can't ignore the elephant in the room. Big Pharma. Pharmaceutical companies make billions off vaccines. And let's not tit ourselves. Profit motives are always in play. From lobbying lawmakers to funding medical journals, Big Pharma has influence at every level. Does that mean vaccines are fake or useless? No, but it does mean the public is right to be skeptical when they see CEOs cashing in, stock prices soaring, and government officials landing cushy pharma jobs after leaving office. Transparency is everything in science, and right now, a lot of people feel like they're being sold a product rather than given a choice. Now let's add one more layer of complexity. Politics in the 2024 and 2025 landscape. President Donald Trump, during his first term, pushed Operation Warp Speed, the program that delivered COVID vaccines at record pace. At the time, he called it one of his greatest achievements. But now, in his second term, he's much more cautious in how he talks about vaccines. Why? Because his base is split. Many conservatives distrust the COVID shots and see mandates as government overreach. Trump knows this. He's not anti-vaccine, but he's learned not to brag about warp speed anymore. And you've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr., one of the most famous vaccine skeptics in America, running as a political outsider. He's pulling real support, not just from independents, but from people tired of the medical establishment. That tells you something. Vaccine skepticism isn't fringe anymore. It's mainstream enough to shape elections. So where do we go from here? Florida's policy is a big test case. If outbreaks don't happen, DeSantis looks like a champion of freedom. If diseases return, critics will say he endangered kids for political points. Either way, the rest of America is watching, and other states will follow. The bigger question is, can we rebuild trust in public health? That means being honest about risks, not pretending science has all the answers, and making sure Big Pharma isn't writing the rules. It also means recognizing that freedom matters, but so does responsibility. Maybe the answer isn't one-size-fits-all mandates. Maybe it's more transparency, more local decision-making, and more respect for parents while still protecting communities. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about vaccines. It's about whether Americans can trust their leaders to tell the truth when lives are on the line. So here's my take. Vaccines are one of humanity's greatest medical achievements, but they're not infallible. Governments should encourage, not coerce. Science should inform policy, but politics should never dictate the science. And most importantly, the American people deserve honesty, not slogans. If we can get back to that, transparency, balance, and real respect for both freedom and responsibility, maybe we can move past the endless vaccine wars and actually focus on protecting health and liberty at the same time. Because isn't that the American way? And that, my friends, is where I want to leave you. But I want to hear from you. Do you think Florida made the right call? Do you trust the government when it comes to vaccines? Or do you think parents should be fully in charge? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading. If you found this breakdown helpful, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and most of all, stay free.